Hello and welcome to the Unit 5 Section 1 video on interpreting scatterplots. So in this unit, we're all going to be talking about describing data. If we have data plotted on a graph, what kind of information can we get out of that data? And how does that data relate? How does the x and y axis relate? So we're going to be talking a little bit about that and how do the data points relate with each other? So first thing we're going to talk about is correlation. Correlation is one way to describe the relationship between two sets of data. You can have a positive correlation, such as we have here. And this positive correlation is positive because if you were to estimate a line through here, it's going basically from left to right, it's increasing, just like a line would. Negative correlation, as one set of increases, the other set decreases. So the data is going down from left to right. And then you have no correlation, where you really can't tell if it's going up or down. There's just not enough to really tell what's happening with the data. You've got no pattern, so there's no relationship. So that's no correlation. So what we're going to do is identify the correlation we would expect to see between the number of grams of fat and the number of calories in different kinds of pizza. So when you increase the amount of fat in a food, you also increase the calories. So since the calories are going up at the same time the fat is going up, you'll have one of those variables on the x-axis, the other on the y-axis, and so you would have a positive correlation. So it would look like this top one here. If this top one had fat here, as fat goes up, calories goes up, and that would be your positive correlation here. So let's identify the correlation you would expect to see between these pairs of data sets. So the number of knots tied in a rope and the length of a rope. Well, as the number of knots you put into a rope goes up, the more knots you have, the shorter the rope is going to get, because some of that length gets taken up in the knot. So as the knots increase, the length decreases, and since those are going against each other, you would have a negative correlation. Now, how about the height of a woman and her score on an algebra test? Well, as you know, the height of a woman has nothing to do with what she can score on an algebra test. Short women get high scores, tall women get high scores. Short women get low scores, tall women get low scores. So there is no correlation between these two variables. Now, looking at it on a scatter plot is a little bit more straightforward. Here, generally, we're decreasing. Even though they're not bunched up really tight, you can see that general decrease through this data. And so since you have a general decrease through this data, then you can tell that it's got a negative correlation. For this second graph, you can see it's generally going up. So we have generally a positive correlation. All right, so that's pretty much all this first section is taking a look at the data and what kind of relationship can we get from that. So in the next section, we'll be talking a little bit more about correlation and ways to describe it.